Well, hello again everybody. Well, today is going to be another this and that. Now, for those of you that have been watching me install the radiator and the water pump in the Chevy, don't worry, I haven't forgotten about that. That'll be posted next week, that video. But today we're going to be looking at building a hydraulic press. Now, I originally bought this hydraulic press to install the water pump pulley onto the last water pump that I had. But in the end, I just decided, having bought the press, I still decided it was easier just to buy another water pump, which I did. Now, some of you might be familiar with the Vintage Steel channel, which is run by one of my friends, Andy. And at the moment, he's working on his Porsche that we're planning on taking to Le Mans with us in a few weeks. But unfortunately, he's just hit a problem with the rear suspension. And it may be necessary for us to press out the rear wheel bearings and install some new ones. So just in case, I thought I'd better get this press out of store and have a go at building it up in case we need it this weekend. So here are the instructions, and even by Chinese standards these are actually nicely lacking in any useful information whatsoever. They actually contain absolutely no idea how to put this thing together. What we've got is a parts list, some pointless warnings, you know, do not microwave pets, etc. Something about operation, yeah, specification, and a picture. So useless. So basically we're just going to do what we always do and make up as we go along. I think we're going to need that big heavy square box frame first, so let's go and get that. And I've got to admit, this is actually genuinely quite heavy. So I'm guessing the first job is probably to bolt the legs on, so let's get them. So they must go on like that. So I think we're going to need some fixing bolts. It'll be interesting to see if this 10-ton press is strong enough. I mean, obviously it's 10 tons, or that's what it claims to be. But is 10 ton enough to be doing automotive work? You know, I have absolutely no idea when it comes to pressing forces. I guess it's either going to be useful or it won't stay long in the workshop. I have to wind this screw in. It looks like the plastic coating's perhaps a bit thick on here. I think it'll wind in the bolt though. I always put these spanners on the wrong way around. I'm definitely going to have to mark the heads to left and right or something. Right, that's it. Now we've got this working table which we bear down onto, and it's supported in multiple positions. You can actually raise or lower it by sliding this pin into here. But I have just noticed that these pins that go through, They don't actually have a head on them, they would push right through. So I think maybe a worthwhile modification may be just to put some split pins or something through them just to stop them wandering away. Because you wouldn't like to be pressing really hard to find out one of the pins was like that and all of a sudden it just gives way. So there's room for a bit of improvement there, I think. And it also comes with these blocks that you press down onto. And maybe I'll find out later, but for some reason these come with a hole drilled in them. Got no idea what that's for. I'm guessing that they have to sit on there like that. And again, I think I would have preferred something to retain them, but yeah, that's maybe something to think about as well. These are quite heavy, these. If one of them falls off and lands on your toe, you'll know about it. In fact, we'll take them off for now. So here's the business end of our press, which is actually the ram. Now it looks as though that's got to be supported up here somewhere. So yeah, I've got to figure out how to get this off. So we've got to sandwich this ram between this top part here using, I guess you call them sandwich plates. And we're going to have the thick sandwich plate on the bottom because when we're pressing down, it's the plate underneath that's going to take all the force. So one of the plates is thicker than the other. So here's a thick plate which I suspect goes on the bottom. And here's the thinner plate that goes on the top. So I think this ram combined with the thick plate will be just too heavy for me to lift to the top of the press on my own. So you can buy this press in the UK from a number of places. In America you probably call it Harbour Freight, I think. In the UK there's a similar shop called Machine Mart. But from what I can tell, all of this equipment is fairly cheaply manufactured in China, and the only difference you get if you buy the Machine Mart version, the Clark version, is you get the privilege of paying £100 more for it. So if you shop around online you can get these quite cheaply. So let's see if we can install the ram now. And I'm hoping I can install it through this top plate. So this isn't at all tedious, honestly. So I didn't realise we've got these two sandwich plates and we've got two holes in them, but one hole is bigger than the other, so that this nut can actually pass through the top plate. And yeah, I didn't realise that. Yeah, the holes are different sizes. Yep, so I've obviously made that much harder for myself than I needed to. Now I could of course install these bolts either way up, and yeah, there's that line of thought that a bolt should go the other way up so if the nut falls out the bolt doesn't drop out, but I don't really want the bolts, the long part of the threaded bolt, I don't want that sticking out down here because it impedes adjustment of this collar, so I've put the bolts the other way up. I don't know if that's right or wrong, that's what I've done. Now, as I said earlier, there's nothing really to centre this, and it all floats around a little bit alarmingly, so I think you could do a nice little modification just to bolt on, drill and tap this big plate and just bolt on a strip of metal at either side, and that would just stop this plate from slipping into the framework, which you don't want. Let's see if I get the spanner the right way up. Oops, not that one. 217s. Oh yes, it is. These don't need to be tight because all the force is actually up, not down. So I'm guessing the next thing to install is the RAM. You know what? I can hear something rattling around inside this RAM. and it is fluid sloshing around, but whatever it is, it's very thin. It certainly doesn't sound like hydraulic oil, so I think we need to tip that out and put some new jack oil in there. Now, I actually thought that this ram was pretty empty, and it actually isn't, but that isn't what I would class as normal hydraulic oil. It's far too thin. So I'm going to put some fresh jacking oil in because, well, that's what I'm going to do. So I keep this turkey baster in the garage just in case my wife gets any ideas. Well, if you've not already done it, why not go and subscribe to the Vintage Steel Garage channel? If you're interested in classic cars and American stuff, you'll find lots of good information on there. Well, it's the day after the day before yesterday and I'm back in the garage. So we're well on the way to finishing this now. We've got the hydraulic hose connected here, so that's connected between the hose and the hydraulic hand pump. The handle's still a bit how you doing, that's just flopping around in the wind. Doesn't feel very positive, so we're going to screw that in with some thread lock. Got a little loose condom here, we could do with gluing that on. That's, yep, ribbed for her pleasure. So need to sort that out. What else are we going to do? I don't know. Is that it? Did I mention the pressure gauge? If not, here it is. So here's the pressure gauge, and isn't that a thing of beauty? I don't know if it's any good, but it certainly looks nice, don't you think? So we've got the actual tonnage pressing down here. So it says this press can go up to 10 tons. And then it goes into the red, so we've got to try and get it into the red a little bit, haven't we? That's the challenge, of course. And what it's actually calibrated in, rather than showing pressure, it actually does show the tonnage that we're pressing down. Now, it doesn't actually know how many tons we're pressing down. What it does is it looks at the oil pressure in the system, and if you know the diameter of the ram, you can extrapolate the tonnage from the actual oil pressure. So, of course, this gauge has been calibrated, and it says on here ram diameter 45mm. But if you used a different ram diameter, something bigger, for example, maybe it was a lot bigger, of course you would the gauge wouldn't be calibrated and it wouldn't read the tonnage correctly. So yeah, you got to kind of calibrate the pressure against the diameter of the ram. I'm sure you all know about that. So if you want to put a very high pushing force, you really want a large diameter of ram. The larger the diameter of the ram, the more tonnage you'll be able to exert. But the downside of having a large diameter ram is that it takes more oil to fill it, so it takes a lot more pumping to get the same movement on the ram. So if you want high pressure, go for a big cylinder. If you want quick movement, go for a smaller cylinder, but you need to put more oil pressure in then. So you've got to pump harder. Nothing wrong with that. Oh, better move this before I drop something heavy onto it and smash it, because that's what will happen. And you know what, after my cack-handedness with spanners yesterday, I'm going to use a ratchet. Hopefully that should speed things up a little bit. So we've got two mounting holes here, and we've got a mounting hole at the top. So again, no pictures, so this ram is going to have to go, it's going to go that way up, isn't it? That takes a bit of holding. It looks like the frame is maybe bent a little bit because it's got a bit of a gap there. I'm struggling just to pull that in. Let me just undo this one. It's only finger tight, but I think I'm going to have to undo it a bit. And just while I was doing that, one of these blocks fell off, and I've said that this really should have something to retain these. Damage your feet if they fall on you. Well, I just know it's going to really annoy me if this handle keeps coming loose, so I'm going to put some thread locker on it. And you only need a little bit of this, so I'm going to put loads on. Now, I'm probably going to scratch the end of this up, but I really don't care because it's got a handle going on it. That's tight. Now unfortunately I haven't got any glue at the moment, so that's just going to have to be pushed on for now and we'll glue it on later. So we need something to fit that. Anybody know what size that is? I'm going to go for 19. Ah! Fail! I came prepared. Oh! I wonder what size that is. Sure the top one's 22. Oh, maybe it's Imperial. I don't know. So we're going to use shifters. So here's the pressure gauge, and I'm going to put some PTF tape on the thread of this just to try and get it sealed, because it's the usual thing that we want to be able to turn it and actually find the sweet spot. We want the gauge facing forward, so I want the seal to be able to conform to what we actually need. So you put a bit more on than you need, and hopefully we can do that then. I think I twisted this tape on the wrong way. My mistake. Because it is trying to unwind it a little bit, but I think it's got it. Is that going to tighten up? I hope so. Trying to think, where do we want this? I think we want to push this round here, don't we, to stop it being annoying. So I'm going to twist that round there. We're going to go for something like that. I've not tightened it too much because we can always undo it, but if we strip this piece of brass, we're stuffed. So this hose has got a bit of a kink in it. Let's see if we can relieve that a little bit. So that's a bit how you're doing. I think that will suit our purposes maybe. So it's got a knurled finish on it, this, so you shouldn't need to tighten it with a tool really, but it's not something I'm going to take off, so it's on there. Okay, so let's give the wanking handle a bit of a pull and see how she blows. Oh, there it goes, I see movement. You see that? Well, I'm pumping away merrily now, and it's not moving very quickly, is it? But it is moving, so that's a good sign. This pump doesn't feel as though it's doing that much, actually. I think it's probably not particularly good. Well, the ram seems to have stopped moving a little bit, so I think we might have got some air in the system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to retract the ram, and hopefully it should pull some of the air back maybe. So we've got a little valve here which we have to screw tight to actually extend the ram, and then we undo it to release the pressure and allow the ram to go back up. So I'm pretty sure what we'll have inside the ram is a big spring, and it's actually the spring that retracts it. It's not hydraulic pressure. All we're going to do is release the pressure. So let's just do that. Hopefully it will go back up. Oh, and there it goes, there she blows. And it is juddering a little bit, which makes me think we've maybe got some air in it. Okay, let's try pumping away again, see if that helps. Usually if you do this enough, the systems will bleed themselves. Back in the day I've worked on some very, very large hydraulic machines, and it's not unusual to have to, what you would tend to do is you would pump them up, put some pressure in them, and then you would crack a valve at the top of the system and let the oil pour out. And we might actually even do that if we can actually get the system to pressurise. Yeah, I think we've got quite a bit of air in here. fact, I might just try and keep him pumping it. Just spell a bit of oil. Nip that up. Well, I've been pumping away for a while now and there's not a lot happening. Perhaps we need a bit more lube. Oh, so it's definitely full. Thought that could have been the problem. I thought it might have been I thought there was an off chance we were actually running it short of oil. But no, lots of oil in there, so that isn't the problem. Definitely feels like an airlock somewhere. And these things are falling off annoyingly like I predicted. I've got no idea why it'd make any difference. I'm going to try turning this ram round, see if it works better the other way up. I don't see why it would. If anything, I would have thought the fluid was going to be at the bottom now. But yeah, it's not pumping, don't know why. Well, I've got to admit, I've never had one of these pumps apart, but it's definitely not pressurising. And when you release the handle, it's springing back up. So it's either full of air, or there's maybe a check valve, a check ball that isn't returning. I suspect it could be a check ball that isn't returning. And it was pretty filthy when I actually undid one of these side covers before just to have a look what was inside, and a lot of dirt and black stuff came out of it. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if there's maybe a ball valve that isn't seating properly inside here. So we may have to dismantle this and have another look. Everything's a bit of a mess here now, everything's covered in oil. Well, I put a block of wood on here because I just got sick of these metal things falling off and twatting me on the foot, because like I say, they desperately need something to retain them to stop them sliding off here, which they don't have. So I've basically been adjusting it with foul language, and it has responded very slightly in that it seems to be working a little better. All I've really done is I've just repeatedly bled the system of air and refilled it with oil a few times, and it does seem to be working a little bit better, but it's a little bit intermittent. Sometimes it works and then it seems to get air in it again and then it stops working. So you know, it's all about how you're doing. I'm pretty sure the problem is inside this portable power pack, this RAM. I still think there's something wrong with the check valves in it or something of that nature, but it's probably working just enough to try it. The other thing I've done is I've actually loosened the screws that were holding it. Again, I don't know, but I think it's possible when it's tight because it's not dead in a line. I think it's maybe stressing this cast body at the bottom. Again, that maybe is making something not sealed properly. It's really hard to tell. It's one of them things where you do something and it works, and you think you've fixed it, and then you use it a minute later and it's not working again. So I don't know if I fixed it or not, that's my honest answer, but I can at least pump it up now. The performance of this thing really isn't great. It's sold as being, well, it says here, a 10-ton shop press. Now of course this gauge may not be accurate, but if I pump this, and I'm going to pump it quite hard because, you know, I don't claim to be a super strong man, but I'm not totally feeble either. And as hard as I can pump this thing without pushing the whole thing off the bench or pushing the bench over, I can only get this up to I can only get it up to 5 tons on here. I certainly can't get it to the 10 tons which it's claiming. So I think that's that really is a little bit of a fail, I'm afraid. So there's the first major problem that I see, is that it can't put down the force it states. Have another go. That's as much as I can put on it. And again, we've not even made the 5 ton mark. Go on, have me Weetabix. No, that is absolutely the maximum I can put down on it. So from the point of view of the specification, 10 tons, well, it says 10 tons never exceed. Maybe that's a con, maybe it's actually can only put 5 tons down. Maybe if you are a strong man of Great Britain, you can get this to pump up to 10 tons, but I certainly can't. So the problem with that is, you know, the diameter of this this ram here, it's just not big enough. Now the second problem that I've found is even when this is actually up at its supposed highest setting, you can't get the ram low enough. It still doesn't come down really anywhere near, so you would need to put a block of wood on it anyway. So I think I paid just over £120 for this, and you certainly couldn't buy the ram and the porter back and the steelwork and actually build it any cheaper than that. But yeah, I still don't feel completely happy with it. It doesn't do what it is advertised to do on the tin. But I still think maybe it's not a bad little project. I'm sure that I could actually maybe pick up a bigger ram. I think I might even have some at work somewhere lying around. We could certainly address the problem with the height of this table here just by drilling some more holes in the framework. That's something that we could do very easily. We could easily make this go a little bit higher up to here. Could maybe get a little bit more force on the ram if I actually bolted the thing down to the bench. But is it going to be a useful tool? I actually suspect not. But I guess the only thing we can do is, you know, try and press one of them water pumps off, try and push the pulley off, which is what I actually bought it for. We're not going to do that today because I'm tired and a bit weed off with it, to be honest. Well, I hope you enjoyed finishing off there with a little bit of vegetable action. My wife certainly does. But I think until next time, that'll do. Bye bye for now. See you again very soon. Bye.